Talk about, I think, a really exciting company that we now all know of and have heard of, but even a couple of years ago, many of us wouldn't know of them and wouldn't have heard of them, but the impact they've made globally is really extraordinary. So we're talking about BYD, and we're very lucky to be joined by Steve Beattie, who is in himself an amazing human being, but he is Deputy Country Manager for BYD UK. Steve, welcome. Big round of applause for Steve, please. So I think it's worth, I mean, just put your hands up if you've heard of BYD. It's pretty universal. I didn't see one that didn't. So, but I mean, it is amazing, because I think if we'd done that, say, 5-6 years ago, it would have been a lot less people. And yet the company's been going for quite some time. Can you give us a sort of potted history of where they've come from and what they've achieved?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, thank you for having me, and thank you for turning up and listening to me. More than my wife does. She's not that interested in listening to me most of the time. So BYD actually started 31 years ago by one person, and he still owns and runs the company. So Chairman Wang, he's a chemical engineer, and he decided that he could make an AA battery last longer than any of the other AA batteries that were on the market. So he developed it and then went to trade shows. And there's some great pictures of him and our number 2 in the world, a lady called Stella Lee, who you may have seen lots of social media posts of, in trade fairs selling AA batteries.
And these weren't rechargeable, they were just AA batteries, standard AA batteries.
Exactly that, right. Exactly that. Then they developed rechargeable batteries after that. And then I guess our biggest milestone, or one of the biggest milestones, was winning a contract with Nokia. So who all remembers the Nokias, the 3310s, the 6310s? Batteries would last forever. Well, they were BYD batteries, right. And that was what really put BYD on the map from a battery technology perspective. And then we further developed, we're a big electronics company, we work lots with Apple and various different other companies. In fact, 1 in 5 smartphones has got BYD tech in already.
So when you say that, it's not just the battery, then it's the actual software or the hardware that operates.
Exactly that.
Wow.
Exactly that. So there's 4 main areas of our business now. So you've got battery storage, which actually we will be bringing to the UK. There's about 2,000 homes with battery storage in the UK, but we're hoping to support and go through our dealer network in selling battery storage, which is a really important sort of change. We've also got cars, of course. We also do buses. You know, we've got nearly 3,000 buses in and around London, electric buses running around. So there's and electronics, of course.
Right. It is amazing, and I mean the one of the stats I heard, I think last year was, and it was just something I read, was that that BYD have about 100,000 people working at the R&D department, and you go, that's amazing. And then you look up similar kind of new companies. Well, there's just over 100,000 people work at Tesla, which is amazing. I think an incredible achievement. But there's 100,000 just in the R&D, which is mind-boggling.
Actually, it's now 120.
Oh my God.
Our chairman is an engineer, and I think when you've got an engineer leading your organisation, he's obsessed with developing and driving the business forward, and new technology. That's what BYD is really all about. And actually, there's a patent wall in the head office in China, and it is like all the way up. And I think there's something like it's over 50 patents a day that we in China that we put forward. So we're always trying to move technology forward.
Yeah, that is an incredible achievement, isn't it? And I mean, it's become this huge company. So I think I first became really aware of just the impact and the range that BYD had when I was in Australia. So I feel, I mean, did you market cars in Australia before here? It certainly felt like it to me. I was very aware of it.
That sounds like you're saying Australia were doing a better job than I am.
No, you're doing brilliantly. And they were, but I mean...
You're absolutely right there. Right. Australia were in 2022, so they were a year ahead of us in 2023. And actually, in Australia at the moment, I think we're now number 2 in the market, just behind Toyota.
Right.
And there was about 30,000 vehicles delivered to Australia. So the Australian public have really taken to BYD. And actually, the Shark is a huge selling vehicle over there.
Yeah. So I remember Bono G, he's
my boss.
He's your boss. So he told me that they were in Australia. They'd sold out. There was such a huge demand for the cars that they'd even sold a lot of them that were in the showrooms that were like show cars, and they were waiting for 2 ships to deliver the cars. But all the cars on all the ships are already sold before they docked. So that
You sound like my boss telling me off for not selling enough cars to Australia. Thanks, Robert. Did he tell you to say that? But no, I think, again, what you talk about there, though, if you talk about the shipping, and again, this sort of shows that, I guess, our chairman and his obsession was you go back when we started to move vehicles to Europe and to Latin America, it was challenging to make sure we had enough of the shipping coming across. So he went and built 7 ships. So now we've got 7 ships with 7,000 vehicles that can go on each, that basically are distributing BYD cars across the world. I just wish he'd build a few more.
Yeah, it is extraordinary when you see that the scale of that sort of operation is mind-boggling, I think. And it is, I mean, that the attitudes to electric cars, I think, have changed remarkably. And I think there is a sort of shift in, it's part of a huge sort of geopolitical shift in a way that culturally this country has always been effectively dominated by American culture because of language, because of common language. And I do feel there's some sort of shift going on, and it's not comfortable. It's sometimes awkward, because there are some people who go, "I wouldn't buy a Chinese car if my life depended on it because they'll be spying on me." and I'm going, "Well, have you got a phone? Have you got a laptop? Have you got any electronics? Because that's going to have a lot of Chinese technology in it." But
yeah, absolutely. I think I can tell you that, like many of us, if we've had a bad day at work and we jump in the car, we might be saying a few things. So they're definitely not spying, I can tell you that, because I'm not sure I still have a job.
Yeah, I think that you'd learn, if you were Chinese and you were studying English and you listened to me in a car, you would learn a lot of new words that would be, it would broaden your vocabulary enormously. It would be very educational. But, I mean, it is interesting that shift is now sort of fairly well entrenched, and BYD are sort of very well... I know for a fact, from anecdotally, that some people were surprised when I said, BYD's a Chinese company. Oh, is it? They kind of don't... It's not obvious if you don't know, if you're not in our world of sort of knowing about it. But, I mean, are you still getting... a lot of interest now in the new models that are coming out and your...
Yeah, we are. I think as the British public, we're absolutely open to new companies. I mean, if we go back into the automotive industry and we go back 50 years, it was first that Japanese brands come over. The product was great, and obviously they've got a foothold in the European and the UK market. We then saw in the early 2000s that some of the Korean brands come over. And I think as British public, and I'm absolutely the same, is that I want absolutely the best value for my money.
Yeah.
I want the best that I can possibly afford, and I really, really want quality. And that's what we, I guess, as Brits are all about, really. And I think that's why that it's been such an open market for UK customers starting to consider, other brands, including obviously the Chinese brands. And of course, MG's been here for a while, which of course was a Chinese brand before that.
Yeah. And then the most recent thing, obviously, which has caught the headlines, I've had to do 2 interviews about it on the radio, when the sort of pitch was, you can charge an electric car in 5 minutes.
Yep.
That changes the whole thing. I want an electric car now. Suddenly all the people who've been resisting it. I mean, that is a remarkable achievement. And I mean, can you go into a bit of detail about, because it's not just the fact that it's an enormous amount of electricity going into the car, but the fact that the batteries can absorb that without exploding, catching fire, going wrong. It's the battery chemistry is critical to this.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's our battery technology. The blade battery, which is invented by BYD. So whereas you've got a normal battery, think about it in breeze blocks, whereas this is just all blades all the way. It's incredibly safe. There's with a nail penetration test. So if you Google BYD battery nail penetration test, you'll see a nail being rammed through a normal battery, and then of course a BYD blade battery. The normal battery explodes, whereas the BYD doesn't. So it's incredibly safe, our battery technology, and it's lasting really long. I think the bit that we're also doing is, I think you're alluding to the fast charging.
Yeah.
So this is our flash charging. It's called, it's the flash charging, which is actually megawatt charging. Obviously megawatt is the power that it can get into it, which is 1,000 kilowatts. So your home charge is 7 kilowatts that goes in. You're normally on the motorway, you'll find anywhere between 50 and 150. So this is 1,000 kilowatts. So we're actually just rolled all of them out in China. So we're putting around 4,000 to 5,000 in and around China. They're all BYD built. And the way that they work is that You've got, I think of you can Google it and you see the pictures. You've got a T-shaped charger, which is really simple to use. It's really light as well. It's been made for all, everybody that can lift it. But what you've got behind that is you've got 2 BYD batteries. So you've got 800 kilowatts of power. And what they'll do there is you'll have 100 kilowatts of DC charging, always topping the battery up. But because you've got battery storage, you're not really taking all of that power away from the grid and having challenges that could cause there. So you don't have to build substations. And the plan is that we're going to roll out hundreds of those across the UK.
Right.
So that's coming. It was launched actually at our head office on Tuesday for the UK. It's in our premium brand. So we're launching a brand, Denza, which will be launched at Goodwood on the 8th of July. And that will come straight with the flash charging.
Right. But could like another BYD use the flash? Can you use the flash charger on a car that doesn't have the capability of taking that level of power? Does it?
Yeah, of course you can use the flash chargers can be used by any vehicle. It's just what the vehicle can take as a power.
Yeah.
So for example, if a vehicle like a C-Line 7 can take 230 kilowatts of power, then you can get that in.
Right.
But whereas a Dolphin Surf that's a smaller battery might only take 80 kilowatts of power, that's all you'll be able to get in. But of course, other brands also can use the chargers, and depending on what they can take. So it's about the car and what it can take. Really.
Yeah. But the actual charger, the connector and the charger is the same.
It's a normal, exactly. It's exactly the normal charger.
Right. Which is fantastic. I mean, that is alone is an amazing.
It's revolutionary. This is what is going to move the electric car industry on. Yeah. Because we all want things done quickly. So it was at our head office. I watched it. It was a Denza Z9 GT. They plugged it in, and it went from 10 to 97%. So when you're talking about the 5 minutes, that's between 20 and 80.
Right.
This went from 10 to 97% in 8 minutes 51 seconds. So you haven't even got a chance to go to the toilet, have a cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, I mean that is the thing that I've got used to as a long-term electric car driver and an old man, is I need to stop long before the car does, for one thing. And then I need quite a lot of time to walk to the loo and have a little, wash my hands, have a little break, get a coffee, walk back. And I've done that now with cars that charge up to 350 kilowatts.
Yeah.
And that was just not long enough. So in a sense, it's more like filling a car. You'd plug the car in, you'd wait for a few minutes, unplug it, move it on so someone else can use it, then go to the loo. I've got to time that the whole thing has got to be, I've got to learn a whole new routine.
I'm glad we're giving you problems, Robert.
Yeah, you're giving me serious problems. I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, that there is a microphone in the centre of the aisle there. If anyone has a question about BYD, flash charging, batteries, or anything related to that, please do go ahead and ask it. I mean, do you see now, because I've been hearing a lot of information about this and it's so hard to know what is accurate, but are you seeing a marked increase literally in the last few months since what's going on in the Straits of Hormuz and the gas and fuel prices going up? And has that had an impact, do you think?
I think when anything goes on across the globe, it can have an impact here, and we're seeing that impact certainly from a fuel cost perspective. And I think if you look at any of the the internet and the websites, and if you look at something like Auto Trader, which of course lots of people visit, what you'll see is as soon as something happens with fuel, you'll see the spike in EV leads go through the roof because of course of the cost of fuel. So we'll see that. I mean, has it having a direct impact on BYD? I'd suggest it's probably a couple of weeks longer to get some of the boats that are bringing the vehicles from China, but that's about it. But what we've seen in the last 2 months alone, so actually if you look at SMMT registrations, which is the governing body who sees what car registrations are, what you'll see is the growth in electric vehicles in the last 2 months. I think April was over 50% in terms of where it was. Right. It was huge. The growth was unbelievable in the last 2 months. So we're seeing that people are now really shifting to EV.
Right. And what about hybrids? Because I know I'm going to test drive this later this year.
Seal U, Atto 2 DMI, Seal 6 DMI.
Seal 6 DMI, that one, thank you.
Okay, that's an estate.
That's an estate, that's the one. Yeah. So I haven't driven a hybrid or any petrol car for many years. So I'm kind of intrigued. That was Bono. Bono G bullied me into it.
Fantastic. I think, I really like plug-ins. So I guess what we're trying to do at BYD is we're targeting ICE engines. We're targeting those with our plug-in hybrids and of course our EVs. But not everybody is ready to move that full transition to EV, and I completely understand that. You know, I've been in an EV 6 years, and I would absolutely never go back. The chance to be able to always charge in my drive and very rarely have to charge when I'm out is for me is outweighs everything else. However, my dad, so he decided he wanted a BYD, and he said, "But I'm never going electric. I don't want to ever go electric."
Right.
I was like, "Well, you should," and these are the reasons why. He said, "I don't want to do it." So he decided to opt for the Seal U, which is a plug-in hybrid SUV. It's got about 55 miles of charge, and we were talking about 8 or 9 weeks later. I said, "Oh, how are you getting on with the car?" And he said he'd not put fuel in it once. Because he'd basically be doing all of his EV mileage driving it.
Yeah.
But where it really suits his lifestyle is Dad likes to go to Spain for 10 weeks in the colder months. So he'll drive down to Spain and with my mum, and they'll be down there. So it's actually perfect for his lifestyle, because when he wants to do that really long journey and go travelling and have no EV anxiety about what it's like in Europe, then he can do that. But actually he saves a fortune in all of the local mileage. So it's definitely a great way to step into EV.
Yeah. Because I think, it certainly, that's how I got into it. I mean, I drove a Prius, you know, from a pure petrol car to a Prius to an electric car. It was obviously a stepping stone. Sir, you've got a question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask how the progress is going with BYD vehicle to grid and home. And particularly, I know about a year ago, I think I heard someone talking about a scheme you're going to launch with Octopus around the Dolphin. And I wondered if that's progressed forward.
Yeah, no, great question. So we launched it about, I think Greg from Octopus launched it just about 9 months ago at the most recent tech show. So we've got 200 Dolphins now that are using V2G, and that's a pilot, and we're getting all the data to work out how does it work. Because it's not just about us, we can just launch a product, but the fact is if we don't understand it and we can't support customers in understanding it, we really need to learn from this pilot scheme. So it's ongoing. There isn't a date of when it will be coming, but it's definitely we're working through on when we're going to deliver that to customers. So yes, the pilot's still going.
And that is, for people who might not know, that is, so you park your BYD next to your house, you plug it in, and you can use power from the battery to is it just to run your home? It doesn't go into the grid, or does it do all of that?
No, that's part of the challenge, because it does go back into the grid. So vehicle to grid is, so V2G is vehicle to grid.
Yeah.
So first of all, you need a bi-directional charger, which means it can go in and come out. So what it does is, think of your car. So in theory, your car will be fully charged, and in theory, it could power your house. Or indeed, you could bring energy down in the evening, and then you could sell energy back to the grid at a different rate. So that's how it could work.
Right, and that's done automatic. I mean, that you don't have to sort of set that up every day.
Yeah, that's to do with the Octopus Energy and the charger, and they'll be able to it'll be set up through their system.
No, it is. I mean, it's an extraordinary. I mean, it's so obvious. You know, after you've had an electric car for a while, you go, that is the obvious step that we need to do, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Although I think I was talking, so someone was asking me about it earlier. And I think vehicle to grid is really exciting and a huge sort of evolution, and something that we can all embrace. However, the first thing to do is, it's a little bit like if you're training for a marathon. If you're not in an EV yet, thinking about vehicle to grid at this stage is like going and running. You start training tomorrow and you go do 15 miles. So the first bit is to get the EV, get it working for you, and then the vehicle to grid technology will be coming later on.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah. Yes, sir, you have a question.
Yes, I find ultra rapid chargers sometimes really hard to use because they're so heavy, the cables.
Yeah.
What does BYD do differently with the new flash chargers?
How have you managed to make a megawatt cable lighter
You can actually lift it with one finger. You can actually lift it with one finger. Do you know what? I actually don't know the answer to that question, so I'm not going to try and pretend I do. I've no idea what they've done, but it is literally like one finger that you can do.
Is it on some sort of cable or something?
Yeah, I mean, so if you look at it, it's on a T shape and it's suspended. So it's suspended from the cable, and it can move across the rail like that, and then it's plugged in there. So that's probably taking the weight. Whereas, of course, if you're not, it's like a petrol pump, isn't it? So therefore, it's probably taking the weight is the way it works.
Yeah, some of them weigh a freaking ton.
Yes, they can be. And if they're twisted round all weirdly, and you stand there and it's all embarrassing because it twists around, and
and trying to pull it in.
Oh, yeah. It's very difficult. People don't know. People who drive petrol cars don't know how lucky they are not to have to deal with rapid chargers. I've got oh no, there's a question there. I was looking for one, but there's one there ready. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Robert. Going back to the vehicle to grid, what's the effect on the battery in the vehicle if it's charging and discharging?
Yeah,
frequently? And what's that do to warranties as well for batteries?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So there's only so many cycles that a battery can do. So it will have an effect, but because of the BYD battery being about longevity, it's still covered under warranty. So it's still good for vehicles. But that's part of why we're doing the pilot, to really understand it going back and forth at the moment. But the early stages are, to say, because the blade battery technology is really robust as a battery. I mean, there might be one or two cars out there that potentially have got a longer range on an NCM battery, but our blade batteries are so dense that actually they last longer. For example, we tell all our customers that they should charge to 100% at home. You don't need to charge to 80. That has no effect on our battery, so always charge to 100%.
Right. Oh, that is really interesting, because that has definitely been a thing. Generally charged to 80%, unless you were going on a long journey, you know.
Which is ridiculous, because of course you don't fill up before on a petrol car, and of course if there's a range, for example, the Sea Lion 7's got a range of 303 miles. If I'm telling you to only do 80%, well, of course, we know real-world driving's a little bit more potentially aggressive than it's done on that.
Yeah.
And then at 80%, you're even lower. So, in fact, even though it might be not as long as some others, I guess it's full capacity you can use with us.
And I think the other thing that I've certainly talked to a couple of proper battery chemists about is that a lot of the research particularly into the vehicle to load, vehicle to your house, vehicle to grid, is the impact on the battery of that is like you're driving at 4 miles an hour slightly downhill. I mean, it's very, very minimal in comparison with you're at the traffic lights and you floor it.
Yeah.
That is putting the batteries under enormous strain. Whereas
I never do that.
I shouldn't ever do that ever. I've never done it, but I've seen it done. I've seen YouTube videos of people doing that. Yeah.
And BYDs are very quick.
They're not sluggish, are they? No, they're very fast. But so there was one argument whereby the idea of using your vehicle as a battery in your house could in fact prolong the life of the battery rather than shorten it. I think it's still under debate, but there's certainly been tests done where it really doesn't denigrate the battery.
I think you mentioned vehicle to load in a minute, and again, that's just incredible. I mean, vehicle to load, so basically your car becomes a generator wherever you go. It's fantastic for whether you're camping or whether you're cutting the grass and you can't get the extension lead all the way. So there's some great social media clips of people with their BYDs and what they're doing with the vehicle to load.
Yes, sir. Question.
I noticed on YouTube last week that you just broken ground on a new sodium-ion battery factory. When is that going to appear in the cars?
So I think we're probably, in terms of us getting it over from China, we're probably about a year, 18 months away of the technology that they've got. So I'm guessing, I'm not 100% sure on when we'll be getting that, but everything else I've seen in terms of how long it's taken, we're probably about 12 months away from getting whatever the tech comes out in China first.
Right. Because that is, certainly an interesting, the thing I would love you to just touch on, because of BYD's, incredible abilities in battery manufacturing, is the cost of batteries. The one cost I can remember very clearly, 2010, the average cost per kilowatt hour was about $1,200 US dollars.
Right.
And it's now around 100. So that change is fairly dramatic. That's 16 years, but the price drop is phenomenal, which is, in a sense, why a lot of cars now have much bigger capacity batteries at not the prices that it would have been, 10 years ago or so. But do you see that continuing? Is that understood that there will be further price drops? Because sodium ion, obviously the materials in it are cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, I can't talk for procurement and for engineering and what we have. I guess what I can say is in terms of what the offers that we're trying to bring to the marketplace at the moment. For example, Dolphin Surf, which of course has a 42 kilowatt battery in. The middle trim level, the Boost, at the moment is 0% PCP at $199 deposit, $199 a month. It's really competitive pricing in terms of what we're trying to do. So I'm not sure if the costs will come down, but if they do, we're going to definitely pass them on to hopefully let people buy our cars.
That is incredible. If you think of it to the, I still have the original Nissan Leaf made in 2010, 2011. And the cost of that battery pack in that 24 kilowatt hour battery pack was phenomenal. I mean, well, that was the vast majority of the cost of that vehicle.
Yeah.
And now you've got a car that's smaller, lighter, with a higher capacity battery that goes further, that lasts longer, that is a much better battery. I mean, hats off to Nissan because they went out there early on.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some issues with early Nissan Leaf batteries, I think it's fair to say.
I think also you mentioned the cost perspective. So in China we've got our BYD museum, and as you walk through one of the rooms, there's basically a car hanging from the ceiling, but it's all done by all its parts, and the only thing that it doesn't have is a tyres and windscreen, because BYD have got something that's called vertical integration. So the only thing that we go outside of BYD for is tyres and glass. Everything else we manufacture ourselves, which really helps in driving costs and bringing incredible value cars to the market.
Yeah, no, that is extraordinary, isn't it? Because I mean, I would have imagined most established European, North American manufacturers, I know they bring in.
Well, we sell them our batteries.
Yes. But I mean, they're bringing in components from hundreds of different manufacturers. They're not making them. I think Ford originally, the Model T was made along similar lines, wasn't it? It was wood and metal went in one end and a car came out the other. But I mean,
and it's the speed. It's the speed in terms of how we operate. BYD. So, for example, the most recent car launch, which was launched yesterday in Berlin, it will be launched at Goodwood in July the 9th for the UK. Is called the Dolphin G. So think of it, so it's a super mini hatchback, so bigger than a Dolphin Surf,
right?
Slightly bigger than a Dolphin Surf. Think old Fiesta size vehicle.
Right.
That's a plug-in hybrid that's coming. But actually, so when BYD came into Europe and wanted to integrate into Europe, that's not a segment of car that's sold in China. So they decided that we needed to be in that segment, and they started that car in 2024. And
Wow.
we brought it to market in 2026.
That's insane, isn't it? That's usually a
Completely new car.
Wow. So it's not even using a.
No, it's a completely new car.
Completely new.
It's not sold in China, only sold in Europe and
Right.
Australia.
Wow. There we go. England and Australia. Have we got time for one more question? I bet there isn't anyone asking one, but I bet someone's got one brewing. Yes, I knew it, sir. Thank you so much.
Do you know what? I love it. He's running. He's that excited to ask me a question.
That excited. Hi.
I was thinking about the question for about 5 minutes, so apologies. Good, thank you. Okay, 10 years' time. Where do you see battery technology in 10 years' time? And more importantly, do you reckon in 10 years' time there'd be enough sort of resources, if you like, to sort of meet the demand of electric cars? I'm just thinking 10 years ahead, with the demand growing for electric cars, are we going to be able to meet the demand? And where do you reckon battery technology would be in that time?
Okay.
Very good question.
Yeah, no, thank you for making the last question very hard. I think battery technology, I mean, if we see the advancements in what's happened since you talked about the Nissan Leaf, but that's taken, if you think about that was 2010, we're now 2026, and that was probably an 80-mile range, and now the average is about 300-mile range in terms of what you're getting. I think you will see some of the more expensive cars with longer ranges, and we're starting to see that there. I think we talk about the chemicals that go into battery, that we're changing the tech in terms of that. I think that's gonna change. So I think from a range perspective, I don't think we'll see in mass market cars much more than 300 to 400 miles, because I don't think you need more than that.
Need it, yeah.
And then certainly coupled with our megawatt charging, as well, then that's gonna help there. And I think on to the second part of the question, which I forgot what the
Well, it was sort of about have we got enough material?
enough energy, of course, enough energy. I think you're right. I think the thing in terms of what we need to do and what all of us need to support and lobby the government in is about clean energy. That's really, really important. We're seeing more and more houses with solar panels that are going on the roofs. You're seeing battery storage becoming, and it's so important that we think about how do we create our own energy and become more self-sufficient ourselves. So that's something that we must do because of the pressure that it can put on the grid long term.
Yeah.
And I think the government need to continue to invest in lots of more organisations with green energy to support that.
And I think, an important thing that would be outside your remit, but it's something that I'm fascinated by is the very rapidly growing industry of battery recycling. So I'm sure some of you have heard of redwood materials, but it's worth looking up redwood materials. They're in the United States. They are doing battery recycling on a scale that is really hard to comprehend. They do it out in I think it's in Nevada, in the desert somewhere, but it is on a vast scale, but they're still gearing up because they're not getting the car batteries that everyone thought they'd be getting, because the batteries are lasting longer than anyone suggested. So, but there are now Teslas on the road where 40% of the materials in their batteries are from old Tesla batteries. So they're recycling everything. It's about 96% of the materials in a battery pack.
Don't worry, we'll always give you a new battery. We're not like Tesla. We'll give you a proper new battery.
That sounds like I did a setup for BYD to come out on top, and you deserve a round of applause for that. Please, big round of applause for Steve. Thank you. That was very good. Thank you.